So today I'm going to talk about being vegan or vegetarian in recovery. Now this is something I've talked about on my blog quite a lot, but I've never made a video about it, so I thought that I should. To start off, a lot of people in recovery or with eating disorders make the decision to become vegetarian or vegan whilst having their eating disorder or whilst in recovery. And when it comes down to it, these choices are to be suspicious of, because somebody with an eating disorder making a choice about their diet that restricts it further is not a good idea when you are ill and are making decisions around food. So you can't really trust your decisions around food and have to always assess them. And even if you have assessed them and you think that it's fine, I would still say that it's not. Somebody who has grown up being vegan or vegetarian, I can see that this might be slightly different just because it was there as your family's lifestyle choice before your eating disorder developed, and so that can be slightly different. I would still urge those who have grown up being vegan or vegetarian to consider becoming non-vegan or meat eaters during recovery, just because it does help your body, because it's easier for your body to get the nutrients that it needs when you don't have a diet that's more restrictive. I would say that vegetarian is more of a grey area, because although it is restrictive, and I'm going to say a lot of people do make the decision to go vegetarian for restrictive reasons, it also can be a moral choice, and you can find quite a lot of substitutes for meat or other ways to get those nutrients, whereas I think being vegan is a lot more restrictive. And yes, there are substitutes for vegan foods, but it's still a restrictive way of eating, and it still restricts you from a lot of things. I mean, I looked into going vegan when I had an eating disorder and when I was in recovery. To me, it really looks restrictive. I know that a lot of people would say that it isn't and that there are substitutes, so you're not really restricting, but I mean, looking at it, it looks restrictive to me. That's coming from someone who now doesn't have an active eating disorder. So I think if you have an active eating disorder, your decisions should be harder for you to trust. And that can sound really condescending coming from someone else and coming from me, but honestly, I know from being in a different mindset, being in an ill mindset and being in the mindset now, that my food choices and my decisions, I could easily have convinced myself that I was doing it for a different reason than I was, and actually would have been doing it for my eating disorder. I do say that people should consider having a non-vegan, non-vegetarian diet for their recovery, even if they've had that as a lifestyle choice for a long time. But, you know, if it is something that has been with you before your eating disorder, I can kind of see where you're coming from if you don't want to change that. But I really would consider considering it. With that out the way, making the choice within your eating disorder or in recovery is just a big red flag. Now, I do understand that people do have reasons to choose being vegetarian or vegan because morally they don't want to engage in eating animal products, and I can understand that point of view, but in reality you actually need to look after your health before anything else. That has to be a priority. So I would always say that if you are thinking about becoming vegetarian or vegan and you think that this is because of a purely moral reason, then I would strongly urge you to make this decision after you reach remission. So you go through the recovery process focusing on your health, because that is what is most important. Obviously, it might be difficult because of this moral war you've got in your head where you don't want to be eating animal products, but really your health does have to come first. It's got to be your absolute top priority for your health and your happiness and your recovery. So when you actually have a healthy mindset and a healthy body, you can make the decision about what you want to eat and if you want to continue eating animal products or not. And then you have a balanced view and a mindset where you can make the decision in a healthy way, or a more healthy way, because I would still argue that if you've had an eating disorder, then restricting your diet is still going to be a really dangerous thing to do, because it could trigger you into relapse. But again, in remission, you are able to make your own choices without as much input from your eating disorder, and I'd say almost no input, but there still will be the eating disorder floating around your head somewhere, not really having any power, but it still is going to be there. So really be aware of that. But when it comes to going vegan or vegetarian during your recovery, or going vegan or vegetarian during your eating disorder, that's just a big no-no. So obviously, if you've already gone vegan or vegetarian during your eating disorder, made that as a restrictive choice, then in recovery you really have to look at that and think that you need to do what's best for your health and your recovery, and I would definitely say that you should revert back to being a non-vegan or non-vegetarian and go from there. If you're in recovery and considering making the choice to move to vegan or vegetarian, just honestly don't. I really strongly feel that that would be a really bad idea, and again, you can wait until you're in full recovery to reassess it and reevaluate that decision and see how you feel about it then. It's not a coincidence that so many people look towards the vegan lifestyle or the vegetarian lifestyle when they have eating disorders. There is a reason that some inpatient units do not facilitate vegan diet. I know that a lot of people argue for going vegan or going vegetarian, but you just can't ignore the statistics and the facts about going vegan or vegetarian, how common it is for people with eating disorders to restrict their diets further. That's all I have to say on that subject. I do feel pretty strongly about that because I've seen so many people fall into that trap and have almost fallen into that trap myself. At the end of the day, nobody can force you to do anything. It has to come from you. So really evaluate and assess how you're feeling about it and your reasons behind it, and just don't trust your decisions around food. So, really look at it closely if you are arguing for it. Give yourself the time to consider an alternative option to restricting your diet by becoming vegetarian or vegan. Thanks for listening to this video. I haven't made one for a while, and that's because I've been super busy, and I find myself being busy these days. I have only made videos like once every 3 weeks, but I'm trying to fit them in when I can. I hope everybody is doing really well, that everybody's still fighting, that other people are joining in on the journey and joining us in the war against eating disorders. So yeah, I hope everybody's having a wonderful day, and I will speak to you soon.